In this section, we'll look at the definition of a class. So before, we learned about the object orientation, his core idea. In fact, it is mainly centered around the object to explain. So how is an object created? So the premise of his creation is to define a class. So class, it is important in Java. So we're going to talk about the class. What is its relationship to an object? A class is an abstraction of an object. It's used to describe the common characteristics and behavior of a group of objects. Let's take an example from the real world. Let's say you want to build a building. So this building, before you can build it, do you need a drawing? So this object, we call this building. And this building, before it can be created, does it have to have a drawing? This drawing is an abstract description of the building. So at this point we can call it a drawing. It's a class. And each building we build is called an object. So it's easy to understand. Then look at the class. Can define member variables and member methods. Because we say object. What is inside it? The core idea of encapsulation is encapsulation. Encapsulation is to encapsulate the properties of an object and its behavior. So the so-called properties are the member variables, and the behavior is the member methods. Member variables are used to describe characteristics of an object. You're talking about the width, height, and area of this building, right? So member properties are the characteristics of the object, and methods refer to their behavior. Okay, so this is a basic introduction to the class. Then let's see how it is defined. First, a class. This is a class keyword. And then it's followed by a customized class name, and then the parentheses. Inside are the member variables and methods. Syntax isn't too complicated. So let's take a look at the example. We're going to create a class like this. So let's create an example. Let's say I create a student. Notice that student is a student class. So this class is an abstract description of all student objects. So let's look at it. It contains properties. And what are the methods? And what does this property actually correspond to? It's his characteristics. And the method is actually the behavior. Okay, so what are the attributes of a student? Well, first of all, does he have a name? Let's connect to the JDK. Then there are some attributes. For example, he has sex. Right, and so on. There are many other attributes. Height and weight. In addition, his method of behavior. For example, study. Like who is studying? Okay, and then we'll do a method. And then the fun is the game. Add a splice. Playing the game. Alright, then. So we can see these are the attributes. These are his methods. And this class is what we call an abstraction of the object. So the creation of objects is based on this class. Okay, let's go back to the PPT. So you can see, this is also the creation of a class. Student class has 2 or 3 attributes. Also define a method. This is its class. Let's talk about some other scenarios. For example, when we declare this member property, that's called a member variable. When we declare this member attribute, which is also called a member variable, we call the variable defined in the class. We call them member variable. A variable defined in a method, we call them local variables. If in a method, a local variable is defined in a method, which have the same name, then this situation is allowed. When we access a local variable, is accessing the local, and not a member. So let's get back to our item. Inside this method, can I set a property with the same name? Can I define another attribute with the same name in this method? I have to make a copy of it in order to use it. Johnson. See, that means at this point he is accessing this Shangzhen. That's how. When a variable declared in my method and my class. Inside the class, variables declared outside of methods can be renamed. But what's the principle of proximity when accessing? The proximity principle. Okay, so that's the first thing he's looking at here. The second one. If we define the same value attribute in this method, we define the same value attribute equal to 50, and the outside is 30. Then let me ask you, when we want to access this value, is it 50 or 30? I just told you whether it is 50 or not. This is what we call the proximity principle. Then these 2 points of attention. That is, the difference between local variables and member variables. So that's it for class creation. That's all we're going to talk about.